Welcome everyone to L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name is Fonzie. I'm joined by my UK bruv from another mum and indie game dev, Callum Monroe. Callum, how are you?
Yeah, good. Back to civilization after camping out in the wild highlands for a couple of weeks. But yeah, no, it's nice to be back. Nice to sort of think about games so soon after returning. So
Yeah.
yeah, you might have to actually update me while sort of during the show because anything that happened over the past like week or so, I have no idea. So
No, that's good. It's great to. I mean, it's a positive thing always to unplug, especially for like as long as you did. Just remove yourself
yeah,
from the internet and tech, and just like go and prance around in the Scotland wildlands like you did.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, my normal thing, usual segue is what you've been playing, but you've just been playing real life Minecraft out there,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, I've just
Um,
I've just been living in the real world, but it's I did buy Tony Hawk's just a minute ago, so I will be playing that.
Ooh, nice. I've been playing it. I'm
So
really, really, really digging it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard pretty good things. I knew you'd be excited for it 'cause you're a big fan of them, aren't you? So it's
Oh
good. Yeah, I
yeah.
was a bit worried. I wasn't really concerned until maybe like the day before it came out, and I was like, oh, maybe it's actually going to be really bad. But I saw a Metacritic; it's on like high 80s or something, which
Yep.
is really impressive. So yeah, I'm really excited to play it. I looked at the platinum trophy, and I'd sort of guessed it'd be really easy, but apparently it's actually really hard. So that'll be fun to go for.
Yeah, I mean it gets pretty tough. Like even the normal challenges in the game, just all the score challenges and stuff, they always build and build with every level. So I can imagine it gets pretty tough.
Yeah.
And I have no desire to like complete the platinum or whatever. I'm just trying to have fun and experience it. But no, it's great. The engine, I think they're using Unreal Engine 4, so it's just like crazy beautiful. And they basically have one for one like matched all the just the way you flow through the game, the how you snap to grinding and how you manage your combos. Like it just feels like the exact
Yeah,
same thing, but they built this engine from the ground up for this remaster, and
yeah,
it's awesome. Like the way they brought back to life those original levels is nuts. And one thing too, the soundtrack, it has to be on point just as much as like the gameplay. I think a lot of people would argue, and it is. Like the songs they picked are really cool. There's new ones in there. There's original songs, and I really dig that they flow regardless of what you're doing. So normally in the old ones, when you'd end your round, like that song would stop, but now the songs just keep going and they just flow better into each other as you're playing. So like I think at one point we were making dinner and I just had it playing the soundtrack in the background, like I just
yeah,
left it
nice.
on.
Yeah, 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 nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing. I always feel like a bit of a poser when I play like skate games because I can't even stand on a skateboard. Um, but like I really like sort of like I used to love the Tony Hawk's games and I like the sort of style like that comes with skating, but I just can't actually do it. So I do feel kind of guilty sometimes when I find myself enjoying something skating related because I just feel
I,
like such a poser.
I get a percentage of that. I understand, but it's like there's no other game where we feel that way. It's not like Call of Duty. It's like, oh, I don't have a machine gun in my backyard, so I guess I should be playing. It's like we don't have that same feeling with other games. But
You don't
you're
have a
right.
machine gun in your backyard? I thought you were in America.
Right. Yeah. When we're born, they just hand it to us and they say, figure it out.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. There's this weird, like, especially getting older. So I just turned, 32 last week. And it's not old, but I do feel like when I am carrying my skateboard around, it's like, I shouldn't be doing this. But then I'll see pictures of, like, Tony Hawk has been doing a lot of promotion for the game. And he's still, he's like 53 or something. And he's still skating just as great
Oh,
as he
yeah,
did before.
yeah,
They even did, like, they found this warehouse that looks very much like that original warehouse in the game, and they had him skating around for some commercials, and it just looks really awesome. And yeah,
yeah, nice.
he's super old. He's still making it work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I don't think there's a sort of like a limit on when you can do it. I mean, if you can stand on a skateboard, that's already far more than I can do because
Right.
I literally stand on it and my knees start shaking and I get all scared. I don't like being off balance, and yeah, that you can't really get much more off balance than being on a board with wheels.
It's the art of not being in balance, and then you eventually you
Yeah,
kind of you control it. But yeah,
yeah,
no, I would suggest just getting one and pushing around like an empty parking lot. Like that's
yeah,
how you learn, and that's all I can really do is just kind of skate around. But I'm fine with that. Just like once
yeah,
you do nail it, the feeling of pushing and just coasting and being in control is awesome. And then you put some music in, it's really good.
A lot of my friends sort of like skating, and they like longboarding as well, sort of down
Uh,
hills, but just looks too dangerous for me, I
you're right about that. It is dangerous, but
think.
it's
Yeah.
it's pretty dope at the same time. But yeah, I've been playing that actually. It doesn't take very long to kind of blast through it. And I guess what holds you back is the to unlock further levels, you have to like complete a bunch of challenges and stuff. But no, I'm really digging. I think they did a great job just representing those old games, and I'm excited for finding back a sneeze at the same time. Whoo! I'm excited for the idea of them taking this franchise to the future and actually doing like a legit new entry where they can create their own levels and maybe innovate a little bit and change it up. I think they needed that buffer, similar to, and I'm
Mhm.
also playing this, but Half-Life Alyx, where they needed that buffer because there's so much writing on that whole series. They needed that buffer to nail it, and then they can kind of look to the future.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I think if they'd come out with like a Pro Skater 6 or whatever it would be now,
Yeah,
um, I think people would have straight away greeted that with hostility because of the Pro Skater 5.
for
So I think
sure.
you're right. I think by doing a remaster, it lets people realize that that not, is it Toys for Bob that did it? Or no, they're doing Crash, right?
No, this one is Vicarious Visions who did the
Okay,
remaster.
Visions who did the Crash Insane trilogy, right? Yeah.
Yes, I want to say yes.
Um, yeah. Yeah, so I think it's a good way for them to show that they like understand the roots of it, and before taking a sort of foray into something new. But yeah, that could be really cool. Because I think like the skate games, I think they're a bit too um like detailed for me. Like I don't really like I said, like I like skating from like an aesthetic point of view, like with the music and the clothes and just the fun of it. And I think although skate is full of that and it does have a lot of character, I just think it's a bit too technical for me. I just don't understand skateboarding as like the actual hobby itself enough to, I think, get good at it like quick enough. I'd probably have to like really spend a lot of time with it. So yeah, I think Tony Hawk's is right up my alley because it's just jumping, spinning the skateboard under your feet and grinding and
Yep.
getting as many points as you can and listening to great music.
Yeah, no, I agree with you the same way. The skate games never fully clicked with me, and I like that they tried. It's a new mechanic, or they kind of started that. I want to say with the skate games, where with the stick, the analog stick, you have to actually kind of flip it to mimic you flipping the board and
Yeah,
kind of control it that way, which is cool. But I grew up and I really dug just the responsiveness and how you
yeah,
can do combos with the original Tony Hawk games where it's just button presses versus, and then also the camera being down. I know they're trying to mimic the like skate videos that were popular in the 90s and stuff where the camera is really low, but I never liked that because I want to be able to see what's in front of me and what I'm setting up. But yeah, that was
yeah,
always a staple with the skate games.
yeah. Like a friend of mine plays Skate. Is it Skate 3 on his Xbox One, like backwards compatible, and I
Yeah.
like to watch him play it. It's good fun to watch, but yeah, it looks too stressful for me to play. I remember
Right.
watching them. They were doing like all these challenges, and you've got to like do them in order. And I was just getting so stressed out, sort of with them as they were doing it, because it did look really hard. Um, so yeah, I think Tony Hawk's is a bit more of like a baby mode for people like me who aren't very good at skating
A
games.
little bit, although I think fans of like hardcore fans would say, not at all, because I guess it's there's an art to how if you can jump in, make it approachable for everyone, but then difficult to master. So like the
Yeah,
combos are where it gets insane. Where if you want to
yeah,
string a bunch of them, it takes a lot of talent and
yeah,
skill to do that. But
yeah,
um, I find myself thinking when I'm playing it, I just love that Activision in general is going backwards and bringing those things out of the vault, remastering, bringing these properties that they've been sitting on for so
yeah,
long. Same with Capcom is doing that a great job as well. And I just want to see more, whether it's publishers, third parties, anybody who's sitting on a dope franchise to just now's the time, bring it back. We have crazy technology and just remaster it.
yeah. Are you sure about that with the new Prince of Persia?
Yeah, we'll get into that one. That's what is it, Ubisoft, and yeah, they don't
Yeah.
have maybe they're new to this whole remaster game, but you got to really
Yeah,
trust the right
yeah,
dev to bring back to life. But
yeah.
yeah, while you were also prancing around in Scotland, I was dealing with my PC, and it's been a nightmare. I think it
Oh,
only I just recently got it up and running, maybe about 5 days ago or something. But
oh,
man,
nice.
it's been enough to like make me regret jumping into the whole PC world because it's all this kind of nonsense with drivers and stuff that's not working and
Yeah,
things that are already dead when you get them. And man, it's
yeah,
been super stressful. But I did get it all working, and I've been playing, spending the last couple of days jumping back into Alex. And
Yeah, did
this
you have
newer
to start
card
it
that
again?
what was that?
Did you have to start it again, or
I did
did you have
not.
it saved
So
out?
I had the save files, which is another thing. This new motherboard, that was that was the actual thing that had failed on me, and it's not talking to any of my hard drives, so that's cool. I have to figure that out. But
Mhm.
there somewhere I saved the actual save file, so I was able to jump right back in. And this graphics
Yeah,
card that I eventually replaced it with is a little bit better, so it actually runs way more fluid. The frame rate's better, the texture's better. So I'm happy that I'm on the other side of this because now I'm playing Alex at the best ability and
yeah,
the
no,
best fidelity rather. But man, I'm loving that game. It's got to be one of my favorite games in I don't know the past 10 years. Like just
yeah,
the
no,
immersion and how you feel like you're in there and all the just the it's great to be back in that Half-Life world. How creepy and weird it is.
yeah,
I prefer if this game wasn't as creepy because I think they really lie hard on the less of the combat and more of the trying to creep you out and scare you and that kind of thing. But it still works in
yeah,
that universe. But yeah, I'm loving
yeah.
it.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to finally give it a go. It feels like one of those games. As much as I want to play it, I probably never will. But
That's what I
I
thought for
really,
the
really
longest
want to.
time.
Yeah. So
The
hopefully
longest time, I
I'll
mean
get into
6 months or whatever.
it. That is a long
Because
time,
it was
though,
just
especially with
announced.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what does make me want to also keep messing with my PC is while you were gone, they announced the RTX 30 series. And so they showed
Mm,
off the three cards they have now. And what's nuts is that 3070, which is like the entry point to that one's
yeah.
500 US, I think maybe what,
Really
449
cheap.
in
Yeah.
pounds. And it's apparently going to be even way better than the best card you can get in
2080.
RTX series now.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that, and people that I did think of you actually, because I wasn't sure if you were biting yourself or
A
kicking
little
yourself
bit.
for getting. But that's the thing, you'll never be satisfied with
Right.
your computer. There'll always be a better deal the week after you buy something. There'll always be a better component. There'll always be something that you maybe could have done differently, and that's just the way it is. You just get used to it. You just start to love what you've got, and it's like. But yeah, no, I think you've had a pretty similar sort of introduction to PCs than that I did because I within about 6 months or so of me building my first PC, my power supply broke,
Mm.
and that took me probably about another 6 months to figure out. So I didn't have a PC for months and months on end 'cause I didn't know what was the problem. And during those months, I had to sort of like force myself to try and diagnose all these different problems, which in turn taught me loads about fixing computers. So um, yeah, I think the more hurdles you'll come across, the sort of better you'll actually maintain your PC in the end because you'll be like, oh, that did that thing. This is how you don't do it again, or you just know. But I mean, having parts arrive dead is very unfortunate and doesn't actually happen that often. So you are you are very unlucky for that to have happened.
Yeah, well, I figured out eventually that it wasn't the cards; it was that my motherboard somehow it decided to fail when I actually swapped out the card. So
Yeah,
that added to the mystery where I just didn't know what was going on. But I
yeah,
did keep thinking. You mentioned that early on that you had experienced the same thing or those struggles, and you were
mhm,
better after that because you just learned more. And I had to
yeah,
go through the same rigorous stuff where I had to research, I had to go on forums,
yeah,
and I now have a bit more knowledge because of that. It's more
mhm,
frustration, but and now I can kind of troubleshoot a little faster in case the next thing happens again. And also it's been really cool with or surprisingly easy with the refund process with a lot of stuff that I've got, especially through Amazon, where even if it's past its time, they'll still
mhm,
work with the manufacturer to get you a refund of the product.
yeah,
So I've been able to do that. And even one of my I actually broke this on my own, but I'm able to actually refund it. But it's that dope CPU cooler that I got that had the
oh yeah,
cool fans and colors on it and LEDs. That one, I just was manipulating power stuff and I overloaded it. So it just like
yeah,
was blinking, the LEDs went out, and then it was my CPU. I could see the temperature was like skyrocketing. So I was like, oh shit. So I turned everything off, removed it, and they're gonna let
yeah,
me still refund it, even though that was totally
nice.
on me. But I mean, I'm not gonna tell them that's what happened. I'm just
No,
gonna say,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
I'm just,
Never
researching.
tell them it's your fault.
Yeah. Just how I was researching Bible stuff and doing my taxes, and all of a sudden it just
Yeah, yeah,
flared up.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what sort of people sort of need to realize is that PCs are more for like enthusiasts, who want it as a hobby
Right.
apart from gaming. You know, is a platform to play games on, and arguably the best place to play them in certain aspects. But it does require a lot of time and patience and effort and knowledge to be able to use them sort of to their full extent. Because you have people who spend all this money on pre-built PCs, so they have no idea what's going on inside it, and then they 6 months down the line, their PC's chugging along really slowly because they don't have any idea how to look after it, how to maintain it. Because half of it's
Yep.
the software as well. It's so easy to slow down your PC because of where you're saving things or how you're downloading things and or things like that. But no, I'm glad you're back up and running. Hopefully, you won't have any more issues.
Here's hoping, but I'm definitely looking across the fence at that RTX 30 series, and man,
But look what
it's
happened last
awesome.
time. Look what happened last time. The grass isn't always greener.
Yeah, I flew too close to the sun for sure, but I keep thinking like maybe it'll work out this time. I wanna upgrade, and it looks amazing. And with Cyberpunk coming out too super soon, it's like I want to be able to. That's another game. I want to make sure everything's on point so I can play that at the best, or somewhat best quality. Because I think the
Yeah,
3090 is like that $1,500 card, which is
yeah.
insane. But with that 3080,
Well, your current graphics card, 1080p, there'll be nothing beating it for 1080p, because there's a certain extent to where you can only have, especially if you've got like a 60 hertz monitor. As long as this
right?
game's reaching 60 FPS on max settings, then nothing will be able to do better than that anyway. So there's no point in even upgrading the 2070, even if you had a 4K monitor, because well, if you had a 1440p monitor, even you'd be still be fine, especially for games like Cyberpunk. That's a top end card in 2070.
I hear you, but it goes in one ear and out the other because I just want the new, the hotness. So I got that bug, man, for sure. But yeah, so they announced that while you were gone, the RTX 3080. We can go into some of the news, but as far as like games playing, I've been playing lately. It's really just been Alex. I've been jumping around with Tony Hawk, and there's also this game on Switch I was playing called West of Dead, which is a roguelike game, and this is my first really long term experience trying to finish and complete a roguelike. And I didn't realize it's a main staple of like you have to die a bunch, and
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. And so I was just getting super frustrated because you would die and then go all the way back to the beginning, and that's just a standard thing. And so I was
yeah,
really frustrated. But once it clicked that you really need to die a lot and you have to just jump in over and over again, and you start to upgrade and progress that way, then it fully clicked, and I'm having a blast playing that game.
yeah,
So I'm playing on my Switch, and I'm battling the Joy-Con drift. So the whole time I'm like trying to maneuver my guy, and it's
yeah,
just I'm fighting against the controller at the same time. But it's also you have to
yeah,
be very quick with your responses, and it's a nightmare. But I'm still trying to get through the game, and it's really fun.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's one thing. That's probably the only thing I don't like about the Switch. I just don't like the paddles. But I bought my little brother, because my little brother's got a Switch and I use it sometimes. And I bought him for Christmas a couple of years ago the GameCube controller that you can buy for the Switch.
Oh, I've seen that.
Um,
Yeah,
just because it's such a large controller, and um, I thought if I ever play it, I can use them.
there you go. Yep, thinking
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
Nice, Calvin. So yeah, we'll get in some of the news. We got really this big one is we've covered Xbox stuff for sure, but it's always good just in the context of PS5 because PS5 is surprisingly still a mystery. But with the Xbox news that came out recently, maybe we can kind of imagine what we're going to see with PS5 coming up. You would imagine very soon, like the announcements from them. But we got this was from Monday. A bunch of Xbox stuff dropped. So we have the Xbox Series S is officially confirmed. So after a series of leaks Monday night, and now with final confirmation from Microsoft, the Xbox Series S is officially out of the bag. So a list of Xbox Series S details includes it's all digital, so no drive in there whatsoever. It's 1440p is the max. I want to say at least 1080 at up to 120 frames per second. It's got DirectX ray tracing, variable rate shading, whatever that is, variable refresh rate, ultra low latency, custom 512 gigabyte SSD, and it can do 4K streaming and 4K upscaling for games. The big one for this, and what kind of throws a wrench into what PS5 possibly is going to do, is the price. So the Series S will retail for $299 US or 249 pounds, alongside, and they released the actual price for the Series X too. It's going to be $499 US, 449 in pounds, releasing November 10th. How do you feel about this now new middle entry into next gen?
I think it's an amazing price, especially paired with Xbox Game Pass. I think
Hmm.
it's a really, really good move by Xbox. Um, yeah, I think it's a no brainer really for people looking for an affordable way into next gen. Um, I think to sort of compare it with the PS5, I think that just if you just compare the Xbox Series X and the Series S, um, I'm just unsure because it says it can do 1440p at 60 FPS, which I think is the best place to aim for. I mean, I know in a few years' time it's going to change, so it needs to future-proof itself. But I think that's a really great place to aim for. And if it can do 1440p at 60 FPS with that comparatively slower, you know, hardware, then I don't know whether that means the Series X is actually going to be a lot more powerful than people expect it to be, or whether the Series S is going to have to take a hit in a lot of like texture, in like the area of like textures and sort of graphical fidelity. Like it'll still be at that resolution, but maybe there'll be certain things toned down. Because I mean the speeds are quite jarringly lower than the X, which obviously explains its price point. But
Right.
so yeah, I don't know. It's amazing. Like there's nothing but a good thing. But in terms of comparing it to the PS5, I don't know whether it's really comparable because the PS5 will not be 249.99 even with the digital one, but it shouldn't be because it's going to be more on par with that Series X spec. So
Right.
I think what Sony have to do is not release the Blu-ray version of the PS5 for more than 449. I think they have to match that at least, um, or 499 even in the States. I think the digital one. I think this is what we were saying last time we talked about it. Maybe 349 would look nice. I think it'd probably be more around 400. I think there may be like £50 difference
Right.
between them. But yeah, I think what will happen is people are going to compare the Series S with the digital PS5, but I don't think they're comparable because the Series S is this sort of middle ground, which I think is a great idea. I'd just be really interested to see how it performs at 1440p because I mean I don't know off the top of my head what all these 20 CUs and 52 CUs mean, the teraflops that made up
Right.
the thing. Um, so yeah, I'll just be interested to see how it works 1440p because that could be really, really impressive, especially for the price, and you get Game Pass as well. So it's probably the best option if you don't care about the PlayStation exclusives. Um,
Right.
if you're more of a casual gamer, that is ideal. That's a really, really great deal. Um, but it does look a lot like the DJ Hero controller, which
Yeah,
is a bit
for sure.
strange.
Yeah, like a weird speaker you'd find and
Yeah.
on someone's car or something. But no, you're right. You
Yeah.
touch on some good stuff, especially with comparison going forward. I think people are going to compare the digital PS5 to the Series S, but they're not really at all in the same category. You're right, where it's more the One X compared to the Series X compared to the
Mm,
PS5.
yeah.
But maybe that's to PS5's advantage that they're going to be compared to already not as powerful system. But I do keep reading online. There is that spec that we have listed, but online people keep saying, at least in that Xbox circle, that really the only difference is the 1440p versus the 4K. You can see GPU wise, it is a downscaled GPU, and if you're using teraflops as a measuring stick, whatever those mean, it's
Yeah.
4 teraflops for the Series S compared to 12, which is nuts. It's like more than 2 times the increase, and then 10 gigabytes of RAM for the Series S versus 16 gigabytes. But they're using basically the same CPU. It's like slightly downscaled, but it's a
Yeah.
3.8 gigahertz CPU for the Series X versus a 3.6. So it's like CPU wise, they're very close. So I wonder, what will be the difference between those two and how they will compare to the PS5? It's a great strategy because they're able to say, hey, next gen is now, you can jump in for $299, for $249. That's amazing to get those casual gamers. Is it enough to get people on the Sony side to switch over? Because what PlayStation still has is those crazy exclusives. So even though they're able to offer a cheaper box on the Microsoft side, what do they have there? We also have Halo pushed to next year, and not a whole lot going on. But you have Game Pass, and there's a bunch of stuff on Game Pass, arguably older games there. But it's kind of this balance where it's really up to the consumer to figure out what they want, which is dope. Because I've said it before, like once these companies compete with each other and Xbox being on the fence, we win as consumers because they're making these huge moves to try and get people back in their ecosystem.
Yeah. And yeah, I think Xbox Game Pass is the real catalyst of sort of why this is such a good thing. Because if Xbox Game Pass didn't exist, then it would still be like, well, yeah, you're paying £250 for a new console, which is good, but what I've still got to then buy the games. There's not really, and I can buy these games on PS5 plus more kind of thing. But Game Pass is just so ridiculously good value for money that paired together, it's perfect. Um, it is really really good. I don't think PlayStation need to do anything price wise because of this announcement. I think a lot of people are using that angle. I don't think that's really going to be an issue. I mean, they're great prices, don't get me wrong, but I doubt PlayStation will be too far from that. Um, what was I going to say? I think the main issue is PlayStation now having to match Xbox Game Pass with PS Now. They need to do something. I mean, PS Now is great. It is still really good, and there's a lot of games on there, but it just needs a refresher. I think it needs a
Yeah.
bit more, and they need to get rid of the streaming only for PS3 games as well, and then that will be a real contender with that as well. Um, so yeah, I think that's where PlayStation need to make sure they're sort of got their eyes on that. But I think that's been the narrative for a while now. I think that's always been the case. I think that's always been the where Xbox have been dominating is in the service area. But yeah, £250 for a Series S that can do 1440p is pretty impressive. Um, for the
I
price
think
it costs
another
you for two of the
test.
PC. But
Right, exactly. Like people, we just talked about the RTX 30 series. That entry
yeah,
level card is $500 alone, or 449 UK. Like, it's but it's different. I mean, you can't play anything else basically besides games on the console. So it
yeah,
is cheaper. They have deals with whatever manufacturers. You're locked into those
yeah,
specs. But so it's kind of apples and oranges. But at the same time, it's just more options. I mean, that's what Xbox has really excelled at, is
yeah,
being as consumer friendly as possible. And I would argue that they're doing that because they have to. I never really trust these corporations thinking that they're, out of the goodness of their own heart, they're trying to cut deals. No, they're trying to make money, and they have to
yeah,
make these amazing deals because they're losing this generation, or
yeah,
lost this last current generation. With PS5, I wonder if they have to at least, I feel like just so it looks good on paper, they have to at least make sure that the digital, or maybe at least the digital, is on par with the price of the Xbox One X. So there's no
yeah,
difference there. Maybe they can keep the disc version at the price of the Xbox Series X, and then drop that other one, yeah, $50, something like that. I don't think it's
yeah.
going to be as the same price as the Series S for
No,
sure. That's a huge drop, and it's way
yeah.
more power.
Yeah, yeah, I think 349 would be the best case scenario. I don't think it would be any lower than 349.
Yeah,
But I'd imagine probably 400 for the digital, and then maybe 450, 500 for the disc one. I don't. I think it will be quite. It won't be good if it's more than 449 or more than the Series X. I think they have to match it. Um,
right.
but yeah, we'll see. I think the main thing I'm concerned with is the actual fidelity of the textures and the like graphics options that are chosen for these games, so they can run at these frame rates. I know that there are variable frame rates, so you can choose, certain performance settings. But what I worry about is if the best way to, or if you choose 60 FPS at 1440p, your game doesn't actually look that great. In
Right.
terms of textures and draw distance and all these things that use up all the graphical processing power. Whereas if you choose the best graphics mode, you're actually getting 30 FPS. I mean, I'd imagine it's probably going to be like that. I think until we actually see the games playing on it, I think we're kind of in the dark about how it's actually going to perform. But regardless of that, 249.99 for a PS4 is a good price, I'd say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, it's a really really good thing, and it'll be interesting to see how PlayStation respond. I think whilst this is definitely the best feedback Xbox have got since all of their next gen stuff, I think they've done a pretty they've had a tough crowd, I think, and they haven't been
Oh
able
yeah.
to win anyone over. I think this has won over a lot of people, and rightfully so. But I still think when PS5 announce their prices, that's gonna, if they get it right anyway, that's gonna just people just forget about this. I mean, when they announced this, I saw that PlayStation was actually trending on Twitter when this was announced,
Yeah.
which just shows the amount of power PlayStation has. You know, whilst people are saying, "Oh, this is a really good thing Xbox are doing," the first thing people think of is, "Oh, well, I wonder what PlayStation will do," kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I think it's a great deal. And yeah, I'm interested to see how PS5 will react if they do at all.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because just with this announcement now this week, and I was reading that Xbox really didn't intend on releasing this info this week. Apparently, it was set for next week, but there was that leak on Monday. Some YouTuber and I. That's what the story first broke, and it wasn't even like a huge YouTuber. They had got a hold of some of the advertising stuff, so like the video,
Yeah,
the promotion. They're posting it, and then it just lit the internet on fire. And then Xbox eventually just kind of gave some kind of credence to it, and then they actually the next
yeah,
day said, "Hey, okay, it's actually announced. Let's go
yeah,
forward with this." So they didn't really attend on it leaking or revealing it at that time. So I wonder where does that put PlayStation as far as their announcements go. You'd have to imagine they're going to be let Xbox have this week, and like you said, that I think Xbox has this uproar now because there's that void that PlayStation has created with their announcement. So, and we'll get into one of the next articles that was frustrating for me is PS5 doesn't have, or Sony doesn't have any intent to talk about PS5 this week. They're just focusing on PSVR, which is fine, but it's like we're all so hungry for next gen news. But maybe next week is when they go, okay, here's the real deal. Here's the announcement everyone's been waiting for, and you're right. If they nail the price, then that completely blows Xbox's steam away, and maybe not for those casual fans. And that's where I think Xbox is trying to push forward with the Series S, is gaining some ground on just people who are going to go to Walmart, to whatever big box store in the holiday season and buy something for their kid, for themselves. Maybe it's been a while since they've been in the console race, and so they want to have something to jump in there with. But I think that isn't a huge majority. So we're going to see PlayStation swoop up everyone else,
yeah, yeah. I think
assuming they get that price
it's
right.
strange. It's strange with PlayStation. I think because everyone knows how great they've done this generation, and they're sort of and how great they're looking like they're going to be doing for the next generation. I think they just have this weird, like, it's almost like they're playing hard to get. Like the more they sort of act like they don't care, the more it's kind of making it intriguing. Because at first we were like, oh, PlayStation are being really arrogant. They're probably going to drop the ball. There was all these bad rumors and everything, and then every time they actually made an official announcement, everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing."
Yep. Even the
So
logo.
I think, yeah, yeah. So I think them to say there's going to be no PS5 news or announcements this week, we're focusing on PlayStation VR. I think that just shows that they're not being dragged into this like competition that everybody creates around these things. They're just sort of doing what they've already planned to do. They've probably got a date
Right.
already set when they're going to reveal anything. So it kind of shows a kind of comfortable sort of what's the word? They just seem very sure of themselves, which I think is positive.
Yeah, that can be good. It can also burn you, and that's what burned them with the PS3 generation. The
Yeah,
intro into the PS3 was that they're really full of themselves and thought that they couldn't be stopped. And they,
yeah,
I think that stuff has to ring really loudly in that on the corporate side where they remember that failure. So they have to always
yeah.
be thinking of that they could easily lose the ball this generation. So they have to make sure that
Mhm.
everything's on point. But yeah, we're talking about them focusing on PSVR. We'll quickly go into this blurb. This was this Monday. They came out of the gate, freaking everyone out, but really it's just more PSVR news. So this is no PS5 news or announcements this week. Sony to focus on PSVR. This is Chandler Wood of PlayStationLifestyle.net. The PlayStation blog detailed a week filled with upcoming PSVR news and reveals, managing expectations by saying there'll be no PS5 related news. Every day through Friday, Sony plans on putting a spotlight on upcoming PSVR titles, both with brand new announcements and updates to games we know about. These announcements will hit at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time each day, but Sony, knowing the hunger fans have for PS5 news, was clear to spell out that it would not include any kind of PS5 news or announcements. And they started off the announcements with Minecraft on PSVR. There's an update for that apparently is free if you already own the game, which is nuts. I don't think there has been an official Minecraft VR mode, so I'm hoping that it moves elsewhere because I don't have PSVR, but I do want to try that. And then there's a
Minecraft being owned by Xbox as well.
that's probably true. That's the reason why.
Yeah,
But yeah, surprisingly, Microsoft is still playing ball and letting them have a PSVR
yeah,
version of it. But then also yesterday, Wednesday, there was a huge sale which is still going on for PSVR titles on the marketplace. So yeah, I mean that's great for them to spend this time, focusing on PSVR, just kind of padding everything out, making sure it's ready to go, and that there's still interest, and then switching gears to, you would have to imagine, PS5 news this week or next week. It's like I feel like they're 2 months behind with these announcements, but I guess they
Yeah.
think they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think November the 10th as well. I mean, that's 2 months away today, isn't it? It's,
Right.
you know, I think that yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see when the PS5 releases. I'm actually more interested in the release date than the price, because I think the price is gonna be in that ballpark, and I think that's what we've all been expecting. Even if it is like 50, like 500 quid or whatever, I think it's gonna be around that. So I don't think there's gonna be a huge amount of, um, for me personally anyway, I think no matter what, I'm gonna get it. Um, I'm more interested in when they're gonna release it, especially now we know when the Xbox is coming out. It'll be interesting to know who's coming out first and whether that
Hmm.
will have any benefits or negatives as well.
Yeah, so I know that at least with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they adjusted their release date recently to make sure it's right on November 10th with the Xbox Series X launching in tandem.
Yeah,
So does that mean PS5 tries to go earlier than that or the same week? And so they have their next gen versions ready to go. I'm not
yeah,
sure, but it's going to have to be November unless they do some kind of really out of the gate or out of left field release and do it like October, or it's available now, something like that would honestly take the cake and take all attention from Xbox if they said you can pre-order it and we'll start shipping it now. That'd be insane.
yeah. It's gonna be, again. It just creates more and more intrigue, doesn't it? Every time something's announced, it's always just interesting to see what the other side are doing.
Right, and all we can do right now is guess on it. But yeah, they're spending this week talking about PSVR, which is fine. But everyone is just so hungry for PS5 news, and I mean, I think it's when we look back, it's probably worked out best for them by withholding the information like they have, because Xbox has been, and they've been super forthcoming with the specs early on, with letting people see the actual box and even like take it apart. I know Digital Foundry, other outlets had a teardown of the Xbox Series X, months ago. And meanwhile, PS5 is like, here's the logo or here's the back of the
Yeah,
controller. They've been really withholding of that, but
yeah,
it's actually worked where it keeps building up the hype because we want
yeah,
to know more. And
yeah.
it's just been but I feel like it could easily go south, but they've been able to manage it where it just keeps us hungry for more information.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes me more excited to get my hands on one because I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know, how to turn it on even. I don't know what the controller
Right.
feels like or even looks like fully. It's, there's a lot of unknown, a lot of mystery around it. And I think, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure it must be intentional by now.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but it has worked. I mean, at first, I remember me and you being quite frustrated that we weren't getting any news, and now, I'm being it's sort of, I'm really like in the palm of their hand. Really, it's they've done a pretty stellar job so far. But I say so far because they could mess it all up in one quick swoop, I think.
They could, and I guess how would they mess it up? I guess it comes down to the price, and it seems unlikely, but any features that would kind of just be unsavory for consumers, and that's really what Xbox did with the Xbox One when it initially released. They're trying to go, and they were ahead of their time, I guess now, but they're trying to go all digital or focus on digital. They weren't letting players like share games natively. You had a
Yeah,
whatever disc you had, it was like locked digitally to that console, which they got rid of.
yeah,
So they had these kind of anti-consumer moves, and they're focusing on like on video integration or like TV integration with the back of the box,
yeah,
and they moved away from that. But I guess if Sony introduces features that are just kind of moving away from games, that's another way they could drop the ball. But it's really down to that and the price. I mean, they have the launch lineup seems pretty solid, so they haven't failed there.
yeah,
If they're in a better
yeah,
spot than Xbox is for sure for launching.
yeah, yeah. I think the only way uh, PlayStation 5 isn't going to massively outsell Xbox at the start is, like you said, if the prices are, obnoxiously more expensive, that would definitely harm it. And also, yeah, like you said, if I mean, maybe if they do, I don't think they would. It's probably almost certain that they're not going to come away from games because their whole mantra is games.
Right.
Um, but I think maybe if like the PS5 is just a bit shit, is if it doesn't work as well as they say it's going to, or if the SSD or the OS is not as fast as expected, or games aren't running as well. With all of these kind of technical hiccups could be things that could happen. It's like when the 360 came out, you had the red ring of death, and
Yeah.
hopefully that's a thing of the past. Now we've sort of, I suppose, a bit smarter in how we engineer things. And I'm sure testing is a lot easier to do, sort of in terms of testing things over a length of time. But yeah, I think that's the only way something could go wrong, if the console itself is a bit of a mess, or if they do a PS3 and charge like $600 for this thing.
Yeah, although that's one thing I like about Microsoft strategies. They announce when they fully announce the Series S and X, they're allowing people to finance it through them. So there's some kind of
Yeah,
plan where I want to say it's all access, where you can pay, it's like $20 a month, $30 a month, and that will eventually just chip away at the cost of the Xbox, of the next gen stuff. And so you can get it in your hands and you just pay it off. And yeah, there are ways you can get credit through elsewhere. We've talked about PayPal credit. People can just
yeah,
have credit cards and do it the same way. But I like that they're natively letting you work through them. And maybe if Sony had that
yeah.
option, so even if it's $600 beyond that, if they had a way to pay them directly, that would just help a lot of consumers who were weary of jumping in for that high price. But they've had nothing like that so far, so I kind of doubt that they would introduce that now. Xbox has done that. They started that with the Xbox One X, so they've been doing it for 4 years now. So they kind of have that structure ready to go. But that'd be the only way to help ease the cost. If for most people they could also get credit through Sony, to pay for. I guess Sony they have a credit card. I always get their bullshit emails asking me to like sign up for a Sony card with Sony points. I'm just like, I just don't need another one of these
God,
things.
yeah. No, yeah, I think generally you normally want to stay away from Sony unless it is PlayStation, or their TVs are pretty good as well. But other than that, from my experience anyway, Sony don't make the best things except the PlayStation. Like I've had like Sony phones and they've been pretty bad.
Yeah.
I do love Sony TVs, but they're always very slow. And I think Sony. I'm surprised they haven't. Or have they rebranded themselves now as PlayStation? Is it like a separate thing now, or?
I'm not sure. They have. I know they've. It's been in the news that they are way more successful with the Sony or the PlayStation side of it. So I know they've
Yeah,
announced that too. But they might have kind of restructured the name so that it's more just focused on PlayStation, because that's where they make their money. But you're right. Like the TVs, they've always been just like really dope, but crazy expensive. The phones, same thing. Where the phones are just you're kind of buying the name with them. That's really what
yeah,
you're getting is.
yeah,
But still great hardware, and then really, yeah. So
yeah.
PlayStation is where they excel at that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think every brand's similar. You've got like Samsung who make certain things that are really good. And I mean, going back to the power supply that I had that broke, it was OCZ brand, which make like some of the best hard drives, but
Mm,
they obviously don't make good power supplies.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of those things. And I think the fact that PlayStation is like its own brand is really helpful, because it does remove itself from Sony, who dip their fingers in lots of other things other than PlayStation. So I think it's good to separate it as much as they can. Whereas I think Microsoft, using Windows 10 still with their Xbox, I think they're a bit more all inclusive with all their brands. But yeah,
Yep, we will see. We're so close, and we've been saying that for months now, but we're
yeah,
legitimately very
yeah.
close.
We're actually close now.
Right. We can taste it. Alrighty, Callum. So
Yeah,
this leaked today, and I imagine we'll get an official response from Ubisoft. But this is there's rumors a couple weeks ago about them revamping or excuse me remastering the Prince of Persia franchise, and so this looks like that's what they're trying to do. So I have the article here from PushSquare.com. Sammy Barker, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake is real and looks weird. This is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, one of the best platformers for the PlayStation 2 era, is getting a full-blown remake, although the leaked assets don't give the best impression. Spotted on Russian Uplay website, we get a look at the titular prince and lady reaching out to him as she's obstructed by guards. And I have a link to just some of the visuals here. It doesn't look... Yeah, and it's hard when it's just like screenshots of stuff for sure, but it's looking a little rough. And you think for like next gen or current gen stuff, this would look in better shape. But even just like the character models, just kind of very much look like just very stiff and kind of basic. But maybe this was released before they were ready. But this looks like a kind of a ready to be advertised trailer kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, it does look strange. I'm hoping it's just the quality of the image and the video. Like you said, there's certain things that won't affect, like the stiffness of the animations, and it looks like an indie game, or at least a game from maybe 15 years ago. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of how it's animated and everything. Um, it does look very strange, but hopefully, is Ubisoft Forward later today? Is it?
You might be right. I know
It's
they're going to have one very soon, but I don't think it's
Yeah.
as soon as today. But you might be right on that.
But yeah, so hopefully it'll look better there. But because Ubisoft, except from all the allegations that have recently been coming out, they've been on a
Right.
kind of upwards trajectory, especially when they decided to delay all of their games and go back to sort of work on them. And they were quite candid, the right word, or honest about having to focus more on getting good experiences out rather than pleasing shareholders and things like that, which I thought was quite good. Um, so yeah, so hopefully it'll be something. Hopefully it will just be those images or that video, because it'd be a shame to see Ubisoft get have other things to have people hate them for.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so that Ubisoft forward is today. So maybe this is just leaking, a couple hours ahead, and that we'll get an
Mm.
actual full blown trailer. Hoping the quality looks a bit better than this, but yeah, they have been on a. You mentioned perfectly where they're on this upward trend. They took the conscious time of saying, "Hey, we're going to take a break on Assassin's Creed and make sure it's like not every year. We take 2 years in between at least." So that's been great. So they've been making these great changes behind the scenes, at least with how they're handling the game side of it. And so I'm hoping that this isn't a fumble. And I'm just not sure they haven't announced who's handling this remake. So maybe it's not in great hands, but the trailer doesn't look promising. I mean, not trailer, but this GIF, this very short, snippet of the trailer doesn't look the
Yeah,
greatest, but pretty stunning if it's in 60 frames per second and it's, all
yeah,
the textures are turned up and everything. Uh, but it's too early to tell, but it's just not a good first thing out of the gate with them.
yeah. No, it's not. It's not the best start to getting excited for it, but I
No.
keep an open mind. Or wait, I mean, it's only in what, 3 hours or so. It said 12 p.m. PDT, which I think is in 3 hours from now. I
It
think I'm getting.
should. I think you're right because that's 3 hours away from me ahead of my
Mhm.
time, and it's what 9 a.m. here. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So looking forward to that. Actually, I want to see some more Watch Dogs as well. I think I'm sort of on the fence with that one at the moment, because I don't like the first two Watch Dogs game, but this one looks like a bit of silly fun.
Right.
And yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
excited to
agree.
see more Assassin's Creed and Far Cry as well. So I'm actually, for once, I don't think I've ever been excited for Ubisoft anything. But with Assassin's Creed being on my radar, and Far Cry looking interesting, and Watch Dogs looking pretty cool. I'm just looking at the thing. There's like a fourth game in like this collage. I don't know what it is. Oh, Tom Clancy Hyperscape.
Oh, so Hyperscape is its own thing. That's their free to play battle royale mode. And then I know there is a
Oh,
Tom
okay.
Clancy. There's a mobile game that they're working on right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fine then. So yeah, so it's just those three things that I care about.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, and it's also strange. So on some of the leaked promotional stuff for this Prince of Persia, it says Sands of Time remake. I find it interesting because a lot of times when they're doing any type of like changing the names at all, like to give the idea that it's a remake, they don't really put it on there. It's usually like remaster or something like that. So, but just Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake seems kind of basic to me as a name, but
Yeah, and
maybe
really long as
they,
well.
yeah.
So I think Final Fantasy VII remake was fine, because like Final Fantasy VII has such a impactful, just saying it, just hearing
Yep.
Final Fantasy VII is impactful. I think that's a fine name, but I think like Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake is just. I think yeah, I think you're right. I think they could have done without that. I think it's lending a bit too much like credence to what Prince of Persia actually is. I mean,
Right.
it's a good series, but it's not. I think it's a bit self-indulgent to, to sort of call it like that, especially when it looks as it does.
That's the
But yeah, no,
thing.
we'll
Yes.
see. We'll see.
And if it's a remake, so it's going to be not a remaster, so it's built from the ground up with
Yeah,
this new engine, possibly, and new tech, and it's already not looking that great, but yeah, it's just tough because that's all we have is these really short snippets and
Yeah,
screenshots. But I'm hoping they nail it because that's a really loved franchise. At least those first three. They did try a reboot a couple years back where it was more of like a cell shaded kind of colorful play on it. I remember playing that. That was really cool. That was maybe a good 10 years ago or 8 years ago. But so it's cool to see them come back to this, and I'm hoping they nail it because it is a really cool, solid game, and not a lot of games are messing with the whole time mechanic like they did back then. So I think it'd fit really well. There's a gap that they could fill.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the first Prince of Persia game's great. I think even if it does look a bit dodgy, I think that's definitely a game that I'd be interested in playing because I do love games like proper adventure games like that, especially in like periodic sort of settings. So yeah, so I'm still looking forward to it, but will hopefully it will look a bit nicer on the eye when we actually see the proper footage.
Yeah, I agree. So, Callum, that's really all I have for you this week. You know what I forgot to put on the docket, and I'm gonna search it up and send it to you. But it's this thing. I think it was also trending when you mentioned PlayStation, which was trending at the same time with the Series S and X. There was
Mm.
this weird like 24 karat gold PS5 that you could pre-order, which is just like an insane price.
Yeah,
And I saw that people were saying, "Oh, pre-orders are up," but then it's a link to this thing, which is
yeah.
insane.
It's like
But yeah, so
8,000 or something, like some ridiculous price.
yeah, it comes. I think it's the whole kit and caboodle. It's like a gold controller, gold headset, gold PS5, the disc version, and yeah. So it's 10 grand US and looks like 8 grand in the UK. But it's 24 karat gold PS5, and for whoever has the money to put down for this thing, whatever like Saudi prince wants to pay for this thing, but yeah, it exists. I mean, it looks dope. I wouldn't mind one that's just like fake gold on it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, I think it looks awesome. It's interesting about the controller, like whether or not it's like actually plated. I suppose that might feel a bit strange. But yeah, I mean, if you've got £8,000 or dollars, whatever it is, and you want a gold
Right.
PS5, then I mean, to be fair, that's the only price we've had for a PS5.
Yeah.
That's actually how much it costs to us. I mean,
So it only gets better
that's
from here if they release a different price, really.
yeah, like they're happy to release the price of a golden PS5, but they won't
Yeah.
release the price of the actual PS5 yet.
Yeah, it's strange. I'm not sure who this is really for, but I mean, for if I'm spending 8 grand on it, I want to make sure that like every part of this thing is gold, just like solid brick of gold. If I'm paying for this, I don't want just like a light brush of gold on the top. I
Yeah,
say just go
yeah,
full force.
yeah. And I mean, they're interchangeable, or they think they might be interchangeable. The sort of like
Oh,
outside. So
interesting.
I wonder if they'll be going up for sale for a little bit less or more, depending how limited it is, for
That's
people
true.
just to snap on their PS5.
Well, I've been dabbling with this during COVID of just like spray painting stuff and just customizing things. So I'll just pop off my PS5 fins and just spray paint it gold, and for
Yeah,
five
nice.
bucks, I got my gold
Yeah,
PS5.
and then sell it on eBay for 8 grand.
Yeah, there we go. Nice, man. So yeah, that's really it for us this week. Anything you're excited about coming up, or you're just gonna be jumping into Tony Hawk?
Yeah, I want to finish Wasteland 3. I
Mm.
definitely want to get back into that. Because I mean, I would have finished it if I hadn't gone away. Yeah, Tony Hawk's. I might look at maybe the Kingdoms of Amalur re-reckoning.
Oh, right.
Because I've always I never finished that, and apparently it's a bit buggy at the moment, so I might wait for it to have some updates if that ever happens.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, other than that, I don't know. But yeah, probably just Wasteland 3. I've been thinking about banning off Assassin's Creed Origins and just going to Odyssey because I feel like I've played enough of Origins to kind of like be
Yeah.
able to compare the changes to in Odyssey. Because that's normally why I like to play all games in a series rather than like the latest one only. Because I like to see how it changes or what they add and what they take away. So I think
Right.
I've played enough. I think I've played about 30 hours or so, and the story is just not doing it for me. So I just don't really care. I don't really feel like I want to carry on with it. Explored like a lot of the world, and I think that's the best bit about it anyway. And yeah, I just like to play Odyssey, and it's not long till Valhalla now, so I want to make sure I get a good time with Odyssey anyway. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm guessing you're gonna just carry on playing Pro Skater.
Playing Pro Skater and then taking my time off playing Alex. Can't wait. I think I'm getting close to the end there, and now I'm kind of thinking about going even slower, just like savoring my time because I'm loving that game.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's the worst when you know you're coming towards the end of a game that you sort of love playing. But yeah, no, that's cool. I think I was thinking of getting the Black Mesa Half-Life One remake as well, actually, because I think if I'm going to play Half-Life Alex, I want to play them all again just so I can
Mm.
really like nerd out.
For sure, I have it as well, and I didn't finish it. I need to jump back in. I'm maybe about 3-4 hours into it, and it's really well done, crazy beautiful. You can turn all the settings up, and I think it's even made for like just run of the mill machines too. It's like you don't need a crazy
Yeah,
powerful rig, but yeah,
yeah,
no, it's that one's really cool. They've updated some of the quality of life stuff as far as movement, and it's just that's one that I never fully finished, but I just love Half-Life 2 so much that. But this gives me a little bit of that taste where the quality of what you're seeing, but Half-Life
yeah,
2 is really nail it for sure.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Nice, man. We'll end it there. Where can they find you online?
Twitter at Bear Munro, I believe is that. I had a real brain fart then. I couldn't actually remember if that was it or not. Yeah, Bear Munro at Twitter.
Nice. You can keep up with the show as well on Plastic Heart Pod on Twitter. That is it for us this week. We'll